I'm Pete. Welcome to Hunting for Dirtbags, where we get to the down low, nitty gritty, dirty aspects of the hunting world. Today's episode, all about boots. First, you have to identify what needs you have in footwear. You know, sometimes it's going to be archery and you're hiking up to 7, 8, 9, 10,000 feet, and it's going to be a long day of walking. Other days, you know, it's the late rifle season and you're going to be hiking through snow in a field and it's still probably going to be a pretty long day of walking. Other times, you're going to be walking to your blind across a muddy field. You really got to think about what kind of footwear you need. There's no right boot for all situations. Thinking about what kind of footwear you need is going to be the difference between a bad hunt and a great hunt. This year, second weekend of rifle, my buddy's footwear just wasn't there. You know, we're going up a mountain like a foot of snow and like 7,000 feet looking for elk, and he's just miserable the entire time because his feet got cold and there was nothing he could do about it until he got back to the truck and switched his boots out. Thinking about what footwear you're going to choose before you start out in that day is absolutely crucial. Everyone's feet are different. This is a running shoe, and this is the best basis to talk about a shoe, in my opinion, that you really can get. With running shoes like this, there's three main types. There's a negative, there's a neutral, and there's a positive. So what negative means is basically you're running barefoot, right? There's no support to the shoe at all. It's truthfully like running barefoot minus the sole in the bottom. That really helps you out right here. What neutral is there's no good, there's no bad, it's right in the middle. So you maybe have a little bit of cushion, but not much. Some people prefer this, some people react better to this. I don't, definitely do. This is what we call a positive shoe. The positive shoe definitely has a lot more reactiveness, a lot more springiness, a little more spongy. And if you're gonna run a lot of miles or walk a long distance, I prefer this. You know, sometimes when you get a lighter shoe and your body's not built for it, you develop these nasty things called stress fractures, and I really just don't like those when you get hairline cracks in your bones. Kind of sucks, actually. So I really recommend something you get fitted for shoes and try it out. Speaking of shoes like this, though, there's a lot of good thru hikers that actually don't wear boots at all, and they wear like a trail running shoe. And if you think about it, it makes sense because they're not quite bushwhacking it, so they don't need all the extra ankle wall protection. They don't have to worry about, you know, traipsing through crazy bushes and stuff like that. They have a lot of support for you. They dry off relatively quickly as well compared to the standard boot. And I mean, they're just not clunky to deal with every single day, so it actually saves a lot on your knees. Thinking about a shoe just truthfully will make all of the difference. The first boot I want to talk about is kind of a specialty boot. This is the wading boot, and as you can see, this one is camo, so it hides your lamber feeties from the fish, right? Not the most important detail about this boot, and honestly, these things aren't even that waterproof because you're wearing like neoprene waders underneath them. So, I mean, what does it matter? They get wet. The coolest thing about these boots that I have are this. This is a felt sole for them. It actually clips on the bottom of the back of the boot. You can see there's a little tassel and stuff. I like them. I wore them salmon fishing in Alaska this year. They worked out pretty well, actually. The only thing I will say is that my feet got epically cold in, what was it, Kenai River this year? Maybe it was the salmon or the Russian. Yep, I think it was the Russian. Yeah, it was a good time, but definitely not as warm as I thought they would be. All right, the next boot I want to talk about, the rubber boot. Look at this thing. Man, my mentor in Alaska, he was talking about moose this season. He exclusively wears rubber boots out in the boat. And let's face it, he's an Alaskan, so he's wearing extra cuffs, and I think we all know that at this point. But I was talking about running through a field earlier, right? This truthfully is probably one of your best options with a set of really good thick wool socks. These things are waterproof, they're knee high. You step in something that's gonna be mucky and muddy that you don't think is, you know, as deep as it is, that probably is your best friend. I wore these for work for a number of years, and they're fantastic. If you gotta go out duck hunting and, you know, or you're out in the jeans or something like or you gotta do something else like that, a good pair of rubber boots should always be in your arsenal. I keep them in the toolbox in my truck because you never know when you're gonna need them. Truthfully, a great boot. The third boot I wanna talk about is this. That is your standard hiking boot right there. I've had these things for a couple years now, and when it's not super cold or snowy out, this is my boot of choice, to be honest. It's usually a day boot. It's not something like going to go like multi-day hiking in, or, you know, maybe it is if you're not hiking too far, but you know, I've never really had a problem with these things. Only when it gets really wet have they let me down. When it's wet and cold, these things will make my feet freeze no matter what socks I have on, or if I even have these on. This is the boot gaiter of choice that I have. These ones are made by First Light. Gator does need his gat, you punk ass bitch, but it's they work out pretty well actually. They provide a little bit of upper layer. Basically, they slide onto your boot over like so on top of here, and they kind of clip on right there. Not so much that I've noticed that it has a little bit of water that seeps in on the toe right here. So definitely a waterproof boot is a lot nicer if you're gonna go through a wet environment. But hey, regular hiking boot, not much different from a hunting boot. All right, boot number 4. This purchase was made directly because of boot number 3. This is a lot more of a waterproof boot for hiking around when it's snowy out and like, I don't know, deer season in Montana, because guess what? It snows pretty much the entire time. They're camo, not that that necessarily matters. They actually were one of the cheapest hunting boots I can find, just because I was cost effective at the time. I definitely would not recommend buying the cheapest boot that you can, because sometimes you get what you pay for, but you know, they've held it up pretty well for me so far. They also work with those Gators that I had. I definitely do recommend getting a solid waterproof pair of boots that, you know, even if your feet are gonna get a little hot, they're gonna get a little hot. I would definitely recommend making sure though that they, like a good utility boot like this that I have. Basically, I love these things. They're great, they were cost effective, and they got the job done. All right, boot number 5. These things. All right, so this is another pair of corkers. This is just a better version of boot number 4. These things are not camo because it doesn't really matter, I'm gonna tell you this. But when there is a lot of snow outside and when it's very cold, I wear these. These things are rated down to like minus 60 or something crazy. So I think that it was like 5 degrees, and it was honestly the coldest 5 degrees I've ever experienced in my life. Over here in Montana this last weekend going out hunting, and this did me a solid favor. My feet were sweating, and I just had a pair of wool socks underneath this. If you do live in a climate that's such as Alaska or Montana or Wyoming, anything like that in these states, having a good pair of super low temp boots really, really saves your bacon. And something cool about these, again, because they are corkers, the soles do interchange on them again. This one's actually pretty unique compared to this one. This actually has some like steel spikes in the bottom of it too, so it kind of digs at the ice a little bit more. So if you're hiking, you know, up some icy trail, you know, you're gonna get traction no matter what you're doing. This one is a little more don't dig your buddy's carpet in his truck up friendly, because it doesn't have the steel spikes, even though they look so similar. I definitely would recommend either one. Or if you don't like your buddy, definitely kick his paint in with this thing. All right, now, something else I want to talk about with you with boots, okay? Your break-in period is super, super important, okay? If you go out with a brand new pair of boots that you have not broken in, you are about to have an absolute awful time, okay? Your feet are going to hurt, your lower back is going to hurt, your knees are going to hurt. The best advice I can give you for breaking in boots is just to wear them into the ground. When you buy them, put them on in your house and you just walk back and forth and do your every day-to-day life for about a week. Right? That'll break them in enough. Even if you want to take them out and you're around your apartment or around your neighborhood and you want to walk around a little bit, that would be even better. But not breaking in your boots, not actually like taking the slow time to just wear them in, wear your foot pattern into the sole of the boot, you're gonna regret it. Trust me. Just buying a pair of boots and hitting the road, while better than nothing, is not going to be enjoyable, and I really would not recommend you do that. So let's talk about socks. A good pair of socks is your best friend, and as Lieutenant Dan says, always change your socks, okay? I always go with a good pair of wool socks, and there's smart wool and stuff out there that are great technology, and if you like them and you love them, go for it. Don't change a good thing that works. For me, a good pair of wool socks, just even a basic one, is what I'm putting underneath almost every single boot that I own, unless it's like 95 degrees outside in the summer. Yeah, a good pair of socks is your best friend. These are just a basic Hanes blue, you know, full length sock, right? Yeah, I mean, choosing what goes on your base layer of your feet is important too, and maybe if you need something a little bit thicker, go for a little bit thicker, but picking a good pair of socks is a good pair of socks. Nothing to it. That's it for this episode of Hunting for Dirtbags. Comment what boots that you like to wear for the environment that you hunt in. As the subscriber and the commenter, sometimes you have a little more experience than I do, and you should be able to share that with everybody here. That's what we're going to do with this channel. As always, continue to like and subscribe, and have a good night.